Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Tracy Show. I am Tracy, and for those of you who are new to this show, this is a podcast that talks to third party candidates trying to beat the duopoly. I'm Tracy again, and before I let my guests introduce themselves, I have a bunch of bills I have to pay. So remember to visit my website at tracymediallc.com. That's where you'll find this interview and other interviews I have done. Financially support this channel. Our channel needs financial support. We have 5 Patreons. Would love to have 10. Again, the website is right there. You just go to tracymediallc.com/support -us. You can always cash at me at Tracy $Tracy Media 74. I also want to invite everybody to join the mailing list. My viewership has gone down a little bit. And so if you're subscribed to this page, some of my subscribers have said that they are not getting notified. So if you join the mailing list, I will notify you and I will not sell your name. So you can definitely be sure of that. So just send an email to tracymediallc@gmail.com. Remember to like this video, share this video, and in the next coming weeks, I'll be talking about an event I have coming in September. It's just a little early right now, so I don't want to do it now because people will say, oh, you're doing it too far in advance. But look on our event section on tracymediallc.com /r-events. And most importantly, you can do the one thing that is free, and that is subscribe to this page. Our goal this year is to have 1,000 subscribers. We are 896 away from that goal. Finally reached 100 last year. This time we want to multiply it by 10. And so those are all the commercials that I have. And I am joined by my guest, who I will let introduce himself.
Hello, thank you, Tracy, for letting me be on this podcast where you get to feature some of the wonderful people around our Hoosier state who are running as third-party candidates. I am going to be running for the city of Portage, where I live. Portage, Indiana, is one of the largest city in Porter County, along the northern part of the state of Northwest Indiana. We are a large part of the Indiana Dunes National Park is located in Portage. So we're on the south shores of our beautiful Lake Michigan and all the wonderful amenities that are part of this area. And so I'm going to be running for mayor of this great city.
Okay, so now for some reason I thought it was city councilor, so I apologize. I had all these questions. Well, they will still apply.
Well, I did run for city council in the last cycle. So 3 years ago, the last election, I ran for my city council seat against the incumbent Democrat who was running unopposed in the general election. So I did do that. I got about a third of the vote, just over a third of the vote in a 2-person race. So pounded over 2,000 doors. So really worked hard. And I think we did a great campaign up here 3 years ago. So hope to do the same thing in this upcoming election.
What made you decide to run for mayor as opposed to running for city councilor?
That's a very good question. Probably I want to start back at why I decided to run for city council. Several years ago, about 8 or so years ago, I was approached by a gentleman, Beto, to raising concerns about there not being a human rights ordinance here in the city. So we put together a citizens committee, a group of people to come together to kind of have discussions about what that looked like, and we presented to the city council, to the ordinance committee of the Portage City Council, a 21-page human rights ordinance that provided not only a statement of protections, but also established a human rights commission for the city of Portage. When that was presented to the ordinance committee, which there were 2 Democrats and 1 Republican city councilors in that committee. What we got out of that meeting was they liked the idea of the ordinance. They liked the first page. They didn't like something comprehensive. And what they wanted was just something to post on the walls of City Hall to say that, we don't, that, just in case discrimination happens in Portage, we have a statement, but it had no meat behind it. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted something comprehensive, so we could have something with the behind it to kind of help to enforce, non-discrimination and provide more equal protections here in Portage. Unfortunately, it passed only just the cover page, so they got a statement to say that they could put a news story saying that we passed a human rights ordinance, even though it really meant nothing. So coming out of that, during that whole process, I was in contact with my city council person through the whole time, and every time I talked to him, he would say, we're with you 110%. When we got to ordinance committee, he says, I don't like this, and so I knew then that things had to change in Portage, and I wanted to step forward to kind of make that change. So I ran against my city councilor on that because of that issue. So that's kind of why I ran for city council. Since then, I've been involved in a lot of other issues and seen, as I attended city meetings, how a lot of the environmental protections that we would hope our city officials would be putting forward, we're not happening. They were, basically, letting developers do anything they want, particularly around our wetlands. And the more I kind of attended meetings and spoke up in support of human rights, in support of gun control, in support of environmental protections for wetlands and sensible development, the more I just got ignored, and they did what they wanted to. So I realized that I needed to be kind of really at the table. And so I'm stepping forward to run for mayor so that I could, be in a position to kind of reframe how we do business here in in Portage here in Northwest Indiana.
So you're running, if I'm wrong, correct me. You're running under the Indiana Green Party. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the way the Indiana laws work, there are 2 major political parties. There's the Democrats and Republicans, and they get, ballot access. The Green Party does not have ballot access. We're considered a minor political party because we don't have automatic ballot access. In order for us to get on the ballot, we have to turn in nominations by signature petitions. I did that for my race on January 6th, the first day to file those petitions. I turned in, I was the first one at the door at 8:30 in the morning, I turned in my petitions. I turned in 245 signatures that had gone door to door to collect to meet my threshold for my office was 190. So I was over 125% of what I needed. So that's kind of my first round of signatures. So just to get on the ballot, I'm going to be collecting some more as I go, so that just in case they knock people off the signature list, that I can make sure that I maintain that threshold.
They would never do that. Never ever would they. No, no, they're honorable and trustworthy. They would never knock signatures off for no reason. No,
well,
not in Indiana.
I would recommend your viewers go look at the right before the right before the last primary last year, the Indiana Elections Commission's meeting. It was live streamed, so there's a video of it, and you'll get to see some of the nasty part of what we call democracy, as you know, major political parties were kicking their own people from their own party off of primary ballots, and the two the race that I do want to point out was McDermott. When he ran, he successfully kicked off two African American women from the Democratic primary ballot. So for the Democratic nominations for the Senate seat. So it is a nasty, dirty part of politics in terms of keeping people off the ballot, especially through the primary process. But I'm not going through the primary process with the signatures. I moved to the general election since I'm not going as a primary major party candidate for a primary.
So you answered a question I didn't ask, but that's okay. That's good.
Okay.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm asking for our audience. Talk about why it is you chose the Indiana Democratic Party, the Indiana Green Party, as opposed to the other three, because there's three parties that have ballot access. There's the Libertarians, the Republicans, and the Democrats.
Yes, and I mean I've lived in Indiana 10 years. And before I lived in Indiana, I was in states where you get to pick which party you're in. Indiana is not weird, but it's different in that your party affiliation is only determined by if you vote in a primary election and what ballot you pulled. So if you go to a primary polling site, and they ask you, which ballot do you want? Do you want a Democrat or do you want a Republican? If whichever one you ask for, that is what party Indiana considers you to be. In other states where you declare affiliation, you fill out a piece of paper and you update it with the elections division to say, I want to be part of this party. So in other states, I was involved with the Green Party and worked on various campaigns. I had the honor of one little bit volunteering in a small matter, not a big volunteer, with one of Jill Stein's campaigns for Secretary of State. That she was, this was for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when I lived in Boston. And I also assisted on a gubernatorial campaign with it was the Green Rainbow Party in Massachusetts. And I was also involved in North Carolina when I'm originally from North Carolina. So the Democrats, there's one,
They're a bunch of idiots. They're jerks. They make no sense. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm like, okay.
Well, when you talk about Democrats, you have to. I mean, are we talking the Democratic national ideal, or are you talking, Portage Democrats? Because Portage Democrats, in general, are nothing like what you would consider what would be, a mainline Democrat, adhering to kind of the Democratic national platform.
You can talk if you could talk about the Portage Democrats as opposed to the national. That would be fantastic.
Portage is an interesting town. We have every single elected official in the city of Portage is a Democrat. There are currently no Republican elected officials in the city proper. The county has like our county commissioner, which serves a larger area, is Republican, I believe. But all the ones who are specifically Portage, they're a Democrat. But they are, when I first started getting the politics, I was talking to an elected official who really helped us. He was a clerk treasurer. He helped us kind of write the human rights ordinance. He said, Portage Democrats, they're very conservative, and they're more they're fiscal. You call them like fiscally conservative Democrats, which I don't really consider. I didn't really understand the term because it doesn't make sense. But they're very conservative. They're kind of old school. They're some of them are really tied to kind of the legacy that we have in Portage in terms of non-inclusive, being kind of a city. Portage is a very diverse city, but they don't really want to kind of admit that it's as diverse as it is. For a while there, all our elected officials were white, even though the minority makeup of our city between the Hispanic and the African American, about 25 to 30% minority. But the constitution of our elected officials, the constitution of our a lot of our city employees didn't match the diversity that our city was. Remember one time several years ago, they had the students at the high school, they elect representatives to kind of shadow for a day the city council and the mayor's office. When you look at the city council, the people who sit in the city council, you saw white. But when you looked at the kids, you saw white, Hispanic, African American, Hispanic, African American, white. So you see, that's the future of what Portage is, and what we are at our core, a very diverse city. A very large city, one of the largest cities in the region in terms of land mass and population. So, the traditional powers in the Democratic Party are not in line with kind of what the Democratic, with what Portage is, and what Democrats in Portage would vote. In the 2016 primary with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton in the city of Portage by over 10%. So we have the Democratic base here in Portage is overwhelmingly progressive, but the people who run for the Democratic elections do not share that same progressive values. And in fact, I'm pretty sure some of the people who are Democrats in our city administration right now voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
That's that's not a shocker.
That
does not shock me. I would almost say that's exactly what I think the Democratic Party is. Okay, hello, Marlon, and anybody else that's watching, of course, hello. And if you have questions, please put them in the comment section, and I will make sure to get to them. So I want to talk about when you first decided, okay, I'm running for mayor. No, I'm going to ask that question later. Talk about the opponent that you're going to be running against.
I do not know yet. I mean, there's still the primary to get through. Currently, okay. The incumbent mayor, Mayor Sue Lynch, has put her name in. Two people have put their names in for the Republican primary. The former city councilor who was mayor for our previous elected Republican mayor. He got convicted of 2 felonies for corruption, and so he got kicked out of being a mayor because Indiana state law says, once you're convicted, you're no longer mayor. So the only city council who was a Republican took over as mayor for about 4 or 5 months, and he lost in the preceding election. He is running again, and there's someone else running in the Republican primary. So I don't
So
really know yet.
you don't know who yet. Okay, okay.
Yeah, that
And,
will be decided during the primary, at the May
and
primary, who's going to
okay,
be in those two positions.
okay. So, hmm. Now my other question is kind of thrown out the window. You don't know. So, well, let's put it this way. Okay, so obviously you know the names of the people. Who is
Yeah,
it that
I have an idea. I mean, it's generally. I mean, I would considering the incumbent mayor, she would probably um, get the nod again because she has a very huge war chest. So she has money to support her campaign, and the Republicans in Portage are not organized. So this is unlike in Porter County, which turned in the last election very Republican. Um, Portage, the Republicans in Portage haven't been able to become a cohesive um, kind of organization.
in your ideal mind, if you could pick your opponent, which one would you pick and why?
I think it's going to be interesting race, whatever the uh, opponents are. It's going to be hard. Like I said, the Republicans are kind of fractured. They're not organized. The Democrats in Portage are also kind of uh, fractured as well between kind of the current administrations and kind of more of the establishment Democrats in Portage. So it's going to be interesting to see if they field a candidate to run against the current mayor. I'm just waiting and seeing. I'm surprised more more people haven't. I mean, the more names have been put in. They have until February 3rd or somewhere around there to submit their names for the primary. So there's another week or two that they can do that. So I expect to see as we get closer to February, more of the vacancies in their primary ballots fill out.
So no name yet. Okay, that's okay. Okay.
Well, we'll see. I'm anticipating, I mean, currently right now it'd be the incumbent mayor and the Republican who ran in the last election. So it'll be kind of uh, uh, a rehash, it was interesting, in the past couple, the past I think 3 or 4, at least 3 general elections. There's only been a couple hundred votes between the Republican and the Democrat and the mayor side. Snyder beat the trustee, Portage Town trustee, two elections ago, 2 or 3, about like 225 votes. So 120 some people swayed that election, and I think Sue beat a couple hundred, like 300 votes, beat the previous the Republican. So it's a very close. So when you throw my name in there as a progressive candidate, appealing to really the much larger Democratic base here in Portage, that could really change the dynamic significantly of the election that's coming up. So there's some interesting math there, which I've been able to explore.
How many people are in Portage?
Portage at the last census, about just under 38,000 people.
So that's a relatively small.
No, in terms of Indiana, I mean, we're considered, we could move up to so we're one of the largest cities in terms of, well, we are the largest city in Porter County. Valpo is the second largest, and that's the county seat for Porter County. We are larger in population. We're also larger in in landmass. We have like over 25 square miles that constitute the city of Portage. Now, a large portion of that is along our lakeshore, and so we are proud to have the national park as part of within the city. Part of it is within the city of Portage, from basically County Line Road over to Burns Harbor, is in Portage. So we have a lot of land within the national park and along the lakeshore. We also have land as we expand south of into the fields, the agricultural areas.
I think you're forgetting what city I live in. That's why I'm
You
like,
live,
I'm in Indy.
well, Indianapolis is its own beast. They are carved out. I think they're the only city carved out in Indiana code as a huge city. Um, they
Yeah, that's
they
why I was like 38,000. That seems small to me. So I'm like, okay, because we almost have like a mil. I'm like, oh, okay, but that's
oh no,
okay.
no, not a million.
Every city has its own thing. So, um, I want to talk about when you kind of talked about what you wanted to why you wanted to run, but I want to talk about when you were gathering signatures and you're still going through that process. And I'm assuming you're going to continue that process for a bit and then kind of shift into campaign mode. What was the top challenge that you faced, and how did you conquer that challenge in terms of getting people to actually sign? Or were people just like, yeah, the mayor, she's awful, I want to just sign me up now, let me volunteer?
It's really not that bad. Okay, I mean, there are a few people. I got cursed out in the street, called a socialist, called a left winger, by usually every time once or twice uh, an election. I mean, it happened like once or twice last time I ran, and once so far, and this time, kind of chased out, of off their property. Um, but generally, most people are very nice. And if you knock on the door, I mean, the hard part is just takes a lot of time. I mean, you're basically going door to door. You're which is why I'm not a very good one of the reasons why I'm not a good campaigner, because I will sit there and talk and talk. I remember I got stuck, I was like for 45 minutes talking to somebody just about issues and things like that. And I'm looking at my watch. I was like, gosh, I want to get down the street. The sun's going down. So, I need to, keep going. But, I just stayed there and chatted until almost dark time. And so, you get to really meet people and talk about their issues and, shake their hand and let them know that what you stand for. Which is unlike, I remember when I was running for city council, um, I I spent I went to this neighborhood. I spent about half a day going through this neighborhood, which is about 4 or 5 streets, and I was coming out back out to where my car was, and the Republican guy who was running for mayor at the time, he had 3 people, 2 people with him, and they just had door hangers. They were just running down the street, hanging out door hangers, knocking, not even knocking on the doors, just putting things out. Um, that's not how I want to run a campaign. I want to, talk to the people. I want to, figure out, let them know what I stand for, what I'm fighting for, and why I think, we should work together to make this city a better place.
So I want to get back to the person that called you socialist. See, this is why I don't run for office, because I feel like that's not that's supposed to be bad. Like that's a bad thing. Well,
Well,
okay, or I
yeah,
would have said thank you and just kept going.
yeah. You just say, I just said thank you, but he just kept yelling at me. So, there are some people who uh, they have very prejudiced and very um, what's the word? They've been Fox Newsified. I'll just make up a word. They have really been, uh, they really are getting used to blowing out that kind of 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 language and hate, and they just want to yell at me for everything. It's like, well, you know, go yell, go yell at your mirror. Go look in the mirror and yell at yourself.
Do
Yeah.
you have a team of volunteers, or are you doing this as a single person operation?
We have a group here at Northwest Indiana Green Party, and we did some canvassing with my campaign. We one Saturday afternoon we hit one of the neighborhoods here in Portage, and but a lot of it, I've been doing it on my own because I really want to, meet meet more people here in Portage. Uh, so, I mean, and running a city race is a lot different than running local city council district race. I was able to hit the entire district door knocking, well, pretty much. Um, but so I'm really aware of kind of what the issues are, kind of, and meeting people around where I live. So I took the opportunity to start exploring out and hitting neighborhoods and discovering different neighborhoods across the city. I
Okay.
focused, one of the issues that I was working on, and it was kind of did it in collaboration. There was a lead casting plant that they're looking to build next to one of our city parks. Well, it's been approved 3 times by the city, which is another reason why I'm running for mayor. So, I was going door to door, letting people know, that that the city is there's possibility of a lead casting plant being built next to your neighborhood. So, getting the word out and letting people get more engaged in what's happening in their neighborhood.
So, boy, I don't want to distract the issue. They're wanting to build did you say a lead casting plant next to a park? I'm hoping that's not what you just said. I'm
It
really
is what
hoping
I just
that's
said.
not, oh my gosh. Who
And
sits and thinks of that? Oh yeah, here's a park. Let's put a
what
lead casting plant
now?
right next door.
Do you want the whole story or do you want the abbreviated version?
The abbreviated one, because I
The
have more
version.
questions.
It is. Well, I was sitting. I go to a lot of the planning and board of zoning appeals meeting, and I was in November of 2 years ago. I was sitting in the board of zoning appeals meeting, and it wasn't really anything on the agenda that I was really interested in, so I wasn't really paying much attention. There was a company out of Illinois wanting to get variances for uh, different kind metal siding instead of brick, on a new building that they wanted to build. So I wasn't really paying much attention until they said, well, we're lead casting. What they do is they take recycled lead, they heat it up to about 700, 800 degrees, and pour it into molds for fishing weights and diving weights. Which you can do in your backyard. It is not recommended in your garage. It is not recommended that you do that because lead vapors are very hazardous. OSHA recommends using full respiration, when you're doing this type of activity. So I got up at the public meeting and said, well, time out. What are the environmental and health and safety issues here? And so I raised that issue. The commission voted unanimously to grant the variance, saying it's a use issue. It's not, it's an approved use, and basing it on that, the approved use for that land was, it was a business park, which is you can do light assembly, which to me, light assembly is you're taking a nut and you're screwing it onto a bolt. That's what I consider light assembly. This is a processing. This is industrial processing. So we started working on this issue, talking to residents, and getting so what we did through all the processes, the city did an evaluation or whatever. They kind of sat in a conference room or something and approved it again. So we have plenty of industrial areas in Portage. We have some of the largest industrial sites in the state along our lake shore with the steel mills and such. There are plenty of industrial areas in Portage where those type of activities can happen. Next to a park, next to the sledding hill, next to the Prairie Duneland bike trail is not where you really want to be putting that type of activity. And that's what we presented to the mayor. The mayor says, well, no, she said that I was part of the problem. That, I'm going around talking to residents, stirring things up, and that, I needed to stop. I was like, well, no, then we need to know, is this safe? It's not, you're not putting out information. They're saying, when I go to the meetings, there's 3 buildings that they could use for lead casting. And she said, no, they're just going to be doing little fishing weights. I was like, no, I mean, they're bringing in truckloads, tons of lead. So, I was going around the neighborhood, letting not only kind of getting signatures, but also letting people know that the potential for that type of activity happening in near where they live.
Well, I still can't believe you said lead casting plant next door to a like who's. Another question, and we'll get past this. I'm still like, what?
Well, we're still. I mean, it hasn't gone through site plan. We had there's a street next to the park, street next to the development, residential street. We had the lady grandmother who is going to be 30 feet from this facility in her backyard. Speak against this. We had people speak against it. I turned in over 240 letters to the mayor saying, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And she just said that I was the problem. I was like, well, no, lead casting is the problem.
I have a suggestion for your campaign. I'm almost certain that company and I could be making an accusation that is not true. But I would check to see, are they giving her some contributions? Because that's just like, you've got to be like really a lead casting pipe plant next to a park. You think that's a good idea? I would just research it. I would not be shocked if you came back on and said, yep, they gave her this much money to some political action committee that she has.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like to do in terms of the way I look at environmental advocacy is, one of the reasons, when I first started doing the stuff in Portage, I was going to city council. But I quickly realized, city council, by the time things get to city council, it's too late. Things have already decided. The city councilors, they don't really understand a lot of what's happening. The city presents them to approve this. They generally will just approve it. So I realized that, I really need to be heading off these issues long before it gets to city council. And that's why I go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Board of the Planning Commission to kind of stay abreast of what's happening and to inject. I stood up there and said, well, what are the environmental concerns? And that forced it's forced the city to have discussions with IDEM to make that call to Indianapolis to say, this is here, is this, what are the safety concerns? What are the regulatory concerns? When I talked to IDEM, they said, well, when they build it, we'll measure it. If they need to air permit, we'll make them apply for an air permit. Well, if they build it, it's too late. you know, they've already spent,
Ye-
the millions of dollars to build the place. We need to know before they invest, the millions of dollars to build the 3 buildings on this 10-acre site. Um, what are the health concerns? And the people who are presenting and wanting to develop this, the company, they're not. Of course, they're going to say there's no health concerns, which is exactly what they said. Um, but that's not. You don't take them for their word, because their goal is to get the land as cheap as possible and to build on it. So the city has a responsibility to its residents to make sure that it does a thorough review process. And so interjecting these type of concerns at the very beginning kind of gets that idea that they needed to do something more. They need to do something more in depth, because a lot of these boards are citizens. They're normal everyday people like the rest of us that are not really going to know kind of the environmental regulations. They're not going to know exactly what this means. If they say lead casting, what does that mean? And they're just saying we're just making fishing weights. You think, okay, well that's so innocuous. Even though it's like 6 or 7 states ban the sale of fishing weights because of the environmental destruction that it has on many of the wildlife, waterfowl and wildlife in our natural areas. So you put that, you research and you understand the issues, you present at the public hearing, saying these are the things that you need to be, these are the concerns that are out there for this issue, and so just don't rubber stamp it. Of course, they generally do, because they generally rely on what the report from the administration, what the recommendation from City Hall is.
Understand. So essentially, you're running your campaign more in an uh,
Environmental and social
stand.
justice.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
know,
I always like to get to some other issues. Not to say the environment is not important, it
well,
definitely is.
you want
But
to talk about guns? I could talk about guns.
no, we stay away from guns. Well, no, you'll probably agree with me on guns. But I want to talk about, of course, some other issues that are probably not only here in Indianapolis, but in Portage and all types of cities in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's the state of the local economy. Um, People are just struggling. They're struggling with rising food costs. They're struggling with rising gas prices. They're struggling with paying rent slash mortgage. Just basically, people are having a hard time making ends meet. Has your campaign addressed that or not?
Well, yeah, it's been I work, I have a full-time job, also pastor a church. It doesn't pay, but I do do that. But so I have a full employment, so I'm generally working 45 to 55 hours a week. Like most people, I was laid off during COVID. I had the financial hardships that happened during the COVID pandemic. And so, it's been, I've been laid off since I've been up in Northwest Indiana 2 or 3 times. So, it's been a struggle. And I understand the struggles that many in our community, especially Portage, have in terms of accessing services, getting the care and the resources that they need, that that is available to them. There's a lot of resources out there. They're not really made accessible. If you look at, and I do, we're on townships up here. I don't know if there are very few places that have townships, but there's, when I was looking at, saw the public posting for the 2022 budget for Portage Township. They gave out, they have over $500,000 in their fund for for assistance in the bank. They only spent like 100,000 or so last year, and probably a large percentage of that goes towards the person who they paid to disperse the funds. So they're banking a lot of that money that could be used to help people in our community with the various expenses, especially as heat and electricity are rising. I spoke 3 weeks ago in Valparaiso at the NIPSCO. NIPSCO is our electric and heat, gas, and electric provider here in Northwest Indiana. They're looking to go up $30 and then another $10. Rate increase per month for people. And I said, we're still coming out of the COVID pandemic. The inflation is terrible. We could be going to a recession with our economy. People are struggling. This is not the time for the state to be letting increased costs for power and electric for things of basic necessity of life that we have here in the United States. Shouldn't be. I mean, the people in Portage, they're struggling. It is difficult for people, and I'm there with them. My heating bill has gone up. They NIPSCO sends out a little yearly thing, and your call. I mean, my usage has gone up, and the cost. It says the costs are going up, so it's raising for me just as everybody else, and it's hard to keep afloat. It's hard to go shopping now. Not so hard. And eggs, not to me, because I've been a vegan for 22 years. I don't eat eggs, but even kind of the basic stuffs that I generally eat are more expensive.
Yeah, it's so Indiana is what I call Texas North. Anytime Texas does something, I'm like, okay, how many weeks before it comes to Indiana? 2, 3, 1. Oh, here it is. And I don't hear, especially because I know the Republican Party is basically trash. Well, the Democratic Party too, but they're a lesser degree of, well, no, they're equal. I'll put it that way. I don't hear anyone telling these companies like we have AES and you have NIPSCO. I've never heard them being denied a rate increase.
That's true.
They get them, and it's just fine. But our state gives away all of these tax breaks to like large corporations, and I don't know when we as citizens are going to start demanding, hey, instead of giving it to Willie to stay, why don't you give it to Bob so he can eat?
Yeah. And, I think, a lot of stuff that's happening in Indianapolis is really going to be detrimental to our economy here in Portage. Portage is a huge logistics hub here in the region. We have, we're at the southern part of Lake Michigan is where, we have all the two interstates that run east-west and the major one that runs north-south, 65, that comes right here. And so, the logistics sector is a huge part of our economy. And, with the electrification, the movement toward electrification, I think is really going to be important for that sector, in terms of decreasing their cost. But the more that the state kind of drags its heels and, doesn't begin that transition, it's really going to begin to affect kind of the economy up here. We have a lot of infrastructure up here in Northwest Indiana, a lot of infrastructure in Portage in terms of not only roads. We have our port, and we also have a huge electric grid up here to service all the steel mills. So we have a lot of infrastructure up here that can be used as as a hub for our green jobs and green technologies. We have we in by the highway there, we have a indoor greenhouse place that grows cabbage and lettuce, I think lettuce, and vegetables. And to do it indoors because we have such a close connection to a very reliable electric grid, and they need a lot of power. So utilizing some of that legacy infrastructure that we have for these new opportunities for green technologies that are emerging, and really using that to transition our economy as the legacy of the steel mills as they continue to as their footprint continues to as a national and then as a sector nationally, as that footprint continues to shrink. How do we kind of transition a lot of that infrastructure to other types of industries? And I think green jobs and green technology industries are key for that.
Absolutely. So I said I was going to ask you about some issues, um, and so I said I wasn't. You gave me guns, so talk about. Um, I hope you give the right answer because I don't want to have to end the interview, but um, because I will definitely end the interview if I hear from
Oh, I have spoken against guns. So does that help?
that. That thank you very
Uh,
much.
you know, Northwest Indiana has a problem with guns, and um, there is kind of the problem that you hear about in the news. City of Chicago has sued, cities in Northwest Indiana, particularly Gary, because of a lot of people coming in from 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 Chicago purchasing guns in Indiana because we have less regulations than Illinois, and doing, lots of crime that is happening with guns purchased in Indiana. We have mothers who, on the south borders of Chicago, have been African American mothers who had marched from the south suburbs of Chicago to the Indiana line because their kids have been killed by guns that had been purchased in Indiana. I got in one of the issues that I've worked on unsuccessfully again is this online gun exchanges. We have currently, well, 4 now. They just approved 3 more online gun exchanges, federal firearms licenses, which the way that guns are sold in the United States is a lot of it is online now. And so they can't just ship it to you directly like Amazon. They have to ship it to a licensed dealer. And then, you arrange with the dealer to pick it up. We have 4 right now because they just approved 3. One was a renewal. FFLs operating in residential homes in neighborhoods. So this is a commercial enterprise operating as a business out of their homes, which is against our zoning, but they get special exemption. I've spoke against those businesses operating in residential neighborhoods. We have plenty of commercial areas for that type of activity, not in neighborhoods, not in the streets where kids play, not near areas where families walk. So I've spoke against those types of businesses operating in residential neighborhoods, but unfortunately, the administration, the Democratic administration, still supports those businesses, which I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I think we all know why, but um,
Well, one of the businesses is run by a Democratic city council person, so that's one of the reasons why. Portage. I spoke. This is one of the things that almost got me killed. The city of Portage FOP does a raffle, and their raffle is an AR-15 is the grand prize. So I spoke against that, and I they try to give me hell for that. they called me a grandstander. I was like, they want to know how I figured how I, like, well, I read it in the paper. I read it in the Times. But the you know the goal of our police should be to help us to keep people safe by getting guns off the street, not being putting guns back into into uh, into circulation.
Again, I have to ask, did you just say what I think I heard you say is the police are raffling off militarized weapons?
The
Not
FOP.
Walmart,
There are a lot of
not
surprisingly a lot
Walmart
of
gift cards, not a new car, an
no.
A. Oh my gosh! You said what I thought. I'm like, he didn't say that. No,
Oh yeah, a lot of FOPs, a lot of organizations, offer, either raffles. They're raffling off either an AR-15 or a handgun, those types of things, which I don't think is let's stick to the flat panel TVs.
I'm like, you couldn't think of a gift card to Walmart. I mean, I have problems with Walmart, but it's better than a no. I just can't believe you're telling me these things. I'm like, what? Oh, wow,
What happens
wow.
it happens all over this state.
I don't think our police department has ever done. I may have to do some research, but I don't think they've ever pulled that one. I think somebody
And
here would be
Indiana
like,
has some very, I mean, we have some very it's serious in terms of, especially around gun exchanges. I mean, purchasing of not gun exchanges, but uh, the uh, the cities cannot have firearms. They purchase. You turn in your firearm, we'll pay you for it. Indiana does not allow that with public money, and weapons in Indiana code that are you know turned in or confiscated, uh, they cannot be destroyed. The city can't just destroy them. They have to, offer them for sale to a licensed dealer instead.
it's like
That's
they're
Indiana
asking for
law.
trouble. It's like, okay, let's increase crime, but say we're, oh my gosh, I keep asking this question, and I don't mean to cut in because I got one more last question here, two more. Third parties need to step our game up. We have to, because these type of silly, ignorant, short-sighted laws are affecting our lives daily. You have
Well,
cities, FOPs
and
that are selling guns. Are
well, silly I mean, if you look at what's coming out of Indianapolis as bills are being filed, silly short-sighted is generally what most bills, most laws are coming out of Indianapolis.
yeah, it's like
Except for the one to deal with the coal ash in Michigan City. We need to deal with the coal ash problem. I'll put a plug in there for my friends over in Michigan City.
I mean, we have all types of problems, and what was our legislators um, concentrate on? Laws that say if your child changes their gender, they'll notify the parents. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the problem. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I think, you know what, Tracy, just run for office, but then most of the time I'm like, no, because I don't see how you do it. I don't see how you do it. I would
Well,
just be
yeah,
so frustrated because
and
it's like people don't see how these laws, especially at the local level, they have such an impact.
yeah, and that's why it's important to get people like you and me into those positions, because a lot of the way that Indiana, I mean, laws are, I mean, a lot of enforcement of law depends upon interpretation, and you can make and how you kind of put, I mean, manage those laws. The cities have complete control to deny gun shops anywhere in residential areas, through zoning, but they still grant special exemptions, so getting into those places where you can, say, well, no, we're not going to grant we're not going to grant in these type of special exemptions. Portage has in its city code more regulations for pet stores than it does for guns. It's more difficult to get a license to operate a pet store in Portage than it is to open up a gun exchange in your home.
In your home.
Mm-hmm.
Where you sleep, where you eat, where children are in the... Okay, so next question before I start on my rant, because nobody wants to hear that. What is it that you've learned for running for this particular office that you didn't know before?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm really kind of at the beginning of this, so it's really going to heat up. At first, I mean, there's really not a lot of heat right now because there's a primary between me and the general election. I anticipate it getting fairly nasty. Elections in Portage have been very nasty over the past couple of cycles. I even filed it was like a 27-page complaint with the Indiana Elections Commission after the last election. They ignored it completely. But it gets very nasty here in Portage, so I'm kind of just keeping focused on going out, meeting people. We're going to be pounding doors as soon as it thaws out, as soon as it gets above 40 or 50 degrees and the sun starts staying out later. We're going to be back to hitting the neighborhoods and talking to people and letting them know about how we can change Portage for the better.
And final question, how is it that people can, and this is a question I didn't ask about finances, but if someone wants to donate to your campaign, learn more about your campaign, how do they make contact with your campaign?
Sure, you can go to my website. It's Rev Michael for Portage.com, RevMichael Portage, Portage.com. And you can read more information about me. You can sign up for our e-newsletter, and you can also make a contribution at that website as well.
Well, I have learned so much in this interview. Um, I don't even know what to say about our stadium. I literally have no words. I knew it was bad, but I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But everyone remember to definitely get in contact with Michael in terms of his. Is it okay that I call you Michael because you have Reverend on your title?
That's fine.
I don't like.
That's
Okay,
fine.
I'm like,
I've been called worse, even in church.
Okay, get in touch with Michael about his campaign. Visit his site, and remember, everybody, remember to like this page, follow, subscribe. We are 896 away from 1,000. That's our goal. We're gonna hit it. Join our mailing list so that we'll all be on the same page about who the guest is going to be. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Michael. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. Thank you.